Hello and welcome to the video for Excel 3 SAM projects. Let's get this done. Start by logging into the sam2010.course.com website with your username and password provided by your instructor. Click on SAM Assignments and then select the project that you're working on. In this case it's Excel 3. On my screen it doesn't show up, so I have to click the little 1, 2, and 3, 4, how many pages there are. This is on page 2. Same thing with your results. Sometimes you'll have to click, if you see these 1, 2, or 3 pages showing, you have to click on that. 5 attempts per project. Start files and instructions are available for each project. Let's open up our instructions. I'll click Enable Editing, and I can see that in this case we're creating a grade calculation based on weighted scores. Step 1 is to download the start file student name _1 and save it as student name _2. So let me go back to the web browser and download and open the start file. Say Enable Editing. I can see the student name is here in B4. Do a file save as, change location or name. I'll change both. I'll change it _2 and location is on my desktop. So I've saved this now and I'm ready to move on to the next step. In the first semester scores worksheet, in cell F17, enter a formula to calculate the weighted average of the 4 exams. Now, in our directions up here, I kind of skip through this. It tells us what our weighted averages are. Exam 1 is worth 20%, Exam 2 is worth 20%, Exam 3 is worth 20%, and Exam 4 is worth 40%. Those values also appear in the document itself. 20%, 20%, 20%, and 40%. Those weights for the associated exams are preloaded into our spreadsheet. But we have to use those weights when we calculate our score. So let's do our window resizing little trick here so that we can get all of this on the screen at once, and we can see both our instructions at the bottom and our file that we're working with as we do this step. In cell F17, enter a formula to calculate the weighted average of the first students for exams. So in F17 right here, here's our first student. The student ID made 100, the student did on the first exam, and 83 on the second exam, 79 and 72. We want to figure out the overall average. Now because this is a weighted average, I have to multiply these values together. And again, we describe this up here in the directions. It tells us that it's the score times the percent plus the score times the percent plus the score times the percent plus the score times the percent. Also in the directions, it's telling us that the formula I use here in cell F17 to calculate the weighted average, I should use absolute references to the weights, because I'm going to copy this when I'm done. So when I reference cell C8, it needs to be an absolute reference to cell C8, $C, $8. Okay, so it's a formula, so it's equals. Formulas and functions always begin with an equals. And then this value, the B17, times the weight for B17, okay, plus this value times the weight for this value, plus this value times the weight for this value, plus this value times the weight for this value. Now here we can see what we've typed, and it's a little it's correct, but it's a little bit hard to see. One thing you can do if you want is you can put some parentheses in here to make it easier to see what's happening. So I'm editing this by adding parentheses in. That makes it a little bit easier to see that I'm taking scores times weights. Now the other thing that we want to do is we want to make these absolute references. So I'm going to put a $sign in front of each of these cell references, C8, C9, C10, and C11, because C8, C9, C10, and C11, these are the weights, and as I copy the formulas down, those are always going to be fixed, absolute. But the scores, I want to get student 2 scores, which is on 18 and so on. Okay. So we get the same, didn't change our value at all, still 81.2, but now I've got absolute references to C8, C9, C10, and C11. By the way, these little, when I edit in this window, I have the option of doing this X or the check. The X means to cancel whatever edit I was in the middle of working on, and the check means to go ahead and accept what's currently in there. The formula in cell F17 should use absolute references to the weights found in C8 to C11, which we just got through doing, and matching each weight with the corresponding exam score. Your weighted average should have the same general formula as the weighted average described in the project overview, which we were just looking at. Now, use autofill to copy the formula from F17 down to F18, F52. So I've got it selected. I can use the fill handle at the bottom and scroll all the way down to F52. And now each of those has been entered. And a quick check, I'll click on the middle of one of these cells and I'll see that I've got the 4 scores for this particular student times the absolute references C8, C9, C10, C11, which contain the percentage weights for each of those 4 exams. Hit the escape key to get out of that, and all is well. Step 3. In cell B5, so let me go back up to cell B5. In cell B5, use the count function to calculate the total number of final scores in the range F17 to F52. So here I will say equals count, and then I want to count the range F17, F52, and I can just type F17 colon F52, and what that will do is it'll tell me all my non-zeros that I have in that. So I have 36 non-zero values in that range. In cell D8, so in this particular cell, whoops, again escape. I had to say escape because I was somehow still editing this formula, and as I was clicking it, thought I might have been changing the argument. So escape is always a good option if to get out of something you're uncertain with. So in cell D8, step 4 says, use the median function to calculate the median score for the first exam. Now, remember, the first exam are all of these exams, right? It's in B17 all the way down to B52. So B17, B52 are the first exam scores, and I want to get the median of those. So I'll say equals median B17 colon B52, because that is all of the exam 1 scores, and that's the median value. And median is the middle value. If you rank them smallest to largest, it'll find the middle value in the list. Step 5, in E8, calculate the max function for the first exam. So again, it's equal to max, but it's the same range of the first exam, and I can do this by typing it in. In this case, I'm going to do it by dragging over, and we'll get the same result. So I put my cursor there, move the mouse over the cursor, but I still get the same range, B17, B52. So the median is the range B17, B52. The maximum is B17, B52. And you can guess what's going to happen in the next step as well. Step 6. In cell F8, use the minimum function for the same B17, B52. Equals min B17 colon B52. And then finally, in cell G8, calculate the range of the scores for the first exam. It's defined, the range, to be the difference between the maximum and the minimum score. So equals the maximum minus the minimum score. So I've got E8 minus F8. So the range was 48. Step 8. Calculate the median, maximum, minimum, and range scores for exam 2, exam 3, and the final exam, and then the overall weighted score. And the suggestion on doing this is repeat the same thing we did on 4 through 7 for each of these rows. Now it's a little bit different. I can't do a copy paste quite as easily because I'm copying down and I have these cells on the other side. This doesn't lend itself to a copy paste. I'm better off just typing these in. But my range, where I did have B17 down to B52. Now I'm going to have C, because C is the column for exam 3. You can see that C is in exam 3, but it's still 17 to 52. So it's C 17 to 52 equals median C 17 colon 52. C17 C52 equals max C17 colon C52 equals min C17 colon C52, and the range is the maximum minus the minimum. Exam 3 is here in column D. You can see the exam 3 is in column D, but it's still 17 to 52, so equals median D 17 D 52 equals maximum D 17 D 52 minimum D 17 D 52, and the range is equals maximum minus minimum. And for the final exam, and final exam is a score here. It was in the E column. So the E column, 1752. Left off the E52 there. Did that twice, didn't I? Equals the maximum E17 E52 minimum E17 E52, and the range is equal to the maximum minus the minimum. Okay, so we did step 8. Step 9, use conditional formatting. And overall weighted score, sorry. And the overall weighted score. Now the overall weighted score is its own column. This is our column with our weighting here, so we do have to do the F column as well. So I'm glad I saw that. Median F17, F52, maximum F17 and F52, minimum F17, F52 equals maximum minus minimum. Okay, now we're done with step 8. Step 9, use conditional formatting to highlight the top 10 scores in the range F17, F52 with light red fill with dark red text. And that's in bold, light red fill and dark red text. That tells us that's actually the value we're supposed to use. That's not a pick a color that you think is red. It's to use a specific value called light red fill with dark red text. Conditional formatting, top 10 scores. Now, what this allows us to do, and it's kind of hard to see. I'm going to do the zoom out. I'm going to zoom a little bit out so I can see more scores on my screen. It's not showing up super well, but I can get a little more on my screen by changing my zoom size here. And I'm going to take these values, F17, F52, which is right here, my overall F17 to F52, and one of the things that Excel allows you to do is to do highlighting, do some color highlighting. And that's in the conditional formatting, which is in the home tab in the styles group. You can do conditional formatting. You have a number of conditional formatting options. You can do conditional formatting, for example, all the values that are greater than something or less than something. So if I want to know all the values that are greater than a 90, or all the values that are greater than a 60 for a passing score, greater than 90 for an A, all the values between two values. And it's a nice way to visually attract your eye to certain data. You can also do top and bottom, so you can do the top 10 items or the top 5 items, or the top 2 items, or the top 10% or 5% or 2% or 25%, or whatever you want, things that are above average and below average. Our instructions say to highlight the top 10 scores. So I'm going to do top 10 items, and the little dot dot dot, whenever you see a dot dot dot, it tells you that you're going to get a dialog box when you make the selection. So I say top 10 items, and it's defaulting to 10. That's the default, but I can make the top 5 items or the top 15 items. So I wanted to, I could change that value. But I want the top 10 items, and I want to highlight them using light red fill, dark red text. Light red fill, dark red text, that's the default option there, but I've really got a couple of predefined functions, plus I could create my own custom function, custom formatting for the highlight. But I'm going to use the light red fill, dark red text, and I'm going to say OK. And what that tells me is I can just do a quick eyeball check, and I can see the top 10 student scores for that overall calculated average, and that's nice. Nice little feature that Excel has, kind of like doing spreadsheets, kind of like doing the charts and graphs. This color formatting of top highlights can be very helpful. And then the last thing we want to do here on step 10, insert a page break at cell A14, and then let's do that first, and then we'll talk about the rest of that step. So A14, select the cell A14, and we want to insert a page break. Okay, so we're going to say insert, and there we can have in the page layout, we want to insert page break here. So I'm going to insert a page break. It's on page layout, not insert. It's a little tricky there. So I've inserted page break. And what that allows me, what that happens now is that I've got, and you can see these little dashed lines, these broken lines. It's telling me that if I were to print this out, this would be on a page by itself, and this would be on a page by itself. So we have 2 pages for this printout. And part of breaking into pages is one of the things we can do is we can put headers and footers and repeat some text on our sheets. So I want to repeat the first 3 rows of the worksheet on any printout and verify that the worksheet is in portrait orientation. So there's 2 things. First of all, the orientation is real simple. It's there in page layout. And if I click on the drop-down list, I see I've got 2 choices. I'm confirming that it is in portrait. It told me that it already was. I was just confirming that. But I want to repeat the first 3 rows of the worksheet in any printout. And the way that happens in this page layout, page setup section, if I pull up the page setup dialog box by clicking that window, I can come down to the sheet tab, and I can specify rows to repeat at the top. And I want to repeat the top 3 rows, this Chemistry 303 first semester posted December 20th. I want to repeat these on the top of each page that prints out, so that page 2, page 3, how everything has that. And I can do that by just specifying here in the rows to repeat at top. I can click on the icon to the right there, and then I can drag the rows that I want to repeat. Okay? And then I'm done. I can click this and go back to it. Now I also could have just typed in $1:3. I could have manually typed that in as well. Notice that it doesn't have, it's not A1 A3 or B1 B3 or A1 G3. $1:3 is talking about the entire rows are going to be repeated at the top of every single page that gets printed. Okay, so we've done that step. Now just as a quick preview, I'm going to do a file print preview, and this isn't on our list there. Where's my print preview here? Oh, it's appearing on my screen automatically to the right. It's happening there. And notice that chemistry is appearing at the top. And on page 2, notice that those first 3 lines are being repeated. Can you see that there? Okay. So that was just a verification of the line we just got through doing. But I know it was correct because in page layout, page setup, I see that I've got those values repeating. But that's what that means. Okay. I think we're done. That was step 10. Everything should look, figure should look like, my worksheet should look like the figure in the final figure, and it does. So I think we're good to go. Do a save, close that up, go back to my browser, upload this one, which is, make sure I'm doing the right name there, T3. So it's NP, it's one that begins with an NP. That's a big thing to notice there. It's NP Excel T3. Okay, so that's it. So I submit that, and 3 check marks. That's good. Just wait here a few seconds with a little magic delay, and then we'll see how we do. And there we go. And the results are available for Excel 3. Let's open up, see how we did. Hopefully 100 out of 100, and booyah, first time, got the correct results. So there is our solution for the Excel 3 project. Have a good day.